Hello. This week I found a story on Facebook. It might be one that many of you saw as well. It was a story about a story that Paul Harvey used to tell. Now, you may not know the name Paul Harvey, but he was a newscaster who was probably most famous in the 1960s and 70s. He did a daily newscast at noon that was broadcast all over the United States, but was particularly popular among the rural communities. And in those newscasts, he would often tell stories. And in fact, every year at Christmas, he would pause his newscast to tell this particular story about a man and some birds. And as the story goes, this man was a man who just could not put his faith in Jesus. The idea that God would come to earth, become a man in the flesh, was just too incomprehensible to him. It didn't make any sense, and he was at a point where he just couldn't pretend anymore that it did. And so he made a decision this particular Christmas that he wasn't going to go to the Christmas service with his wife. He told her he was going to stay home. He just felt like a hypocrite if he went to the service. So he did stay home. And when he was home alone, a flock of birds flew up to the house and started to ping against the window. There was a snowstorm, they were lost, and they were trying to figure out how to get inside to be safe. He saw this happening and realized if they kept doing it, they were going to kill themselves slamming into the house. So he made a decision that he was going to go outside and try to redirect them to his barn. It was warm, had a big door, he could let them all inside, they could wait out the storm. So he went outside into the storm, and he started trying to do everything he possibly could to redirect those birds. But it was to no avail. They had absolutely no intention of following him. They were scared of him, and they didn't want to go near. Finally, he became so exasperated, he said, if I could only become a bird, I could speak their language, I could communicate with them, and I could get them into that barn. And at just that moment, the church bells began to ring. And it struck him what he had said and what the greater meaning of those words were. You see, God saw that we needed to be saved. And he sent his Son to earth to speak our language, to help us learn to understand God, and to bring us to safety. And Jesus is not just the way to safety. He is the only way to salvation. We serve a great God, a God who loves us beyond all measure, who sent his very self down here to earth to live a life, to teach us, to die a terrible death, to become the sacrifice that would take away sin and give us access to life eternal with him. And I can assure you, it will be in a place much better than a warm barn. As you consider the magnitude of God's love for you this week, have a great week.